Hey there and welcome to the Daktaris assembly. Checking out Lady Kitty Doctor for the Nomads. Just going to go through her pieces first and get her assembled and see how good the model really is and how easy it is to assemble. Okay, so she is a 5-piece model. Some of these bits are pretty fine, and I will point out that she's an older model. She is not from the N3 range, so she is of the sort of the true 25mm fine detail kind of range, rather than the current N3 range, which is more like 28mm, and I'd say it's cleaner cast, especially on things like faces on them, the current stuff. But some of the details on these older ones are actually a bit tighter, in my opinion. So let's go and check out what flash etc. is present from the casting process. First up, then we've got Kitty Body, and we've got a bit of a release point here, although it's slightly the wrong shape for a standard release point, but it might just be that it's an older point, older build in the casting department. We've got a little bit down here, a little bit behind the ear here, which means not only trimming the ear, but a little bit of shaping on the ear as well. Then in addition, we have the injection point, which is in the top of the head, which is frustrating, because it means that when removing it, going to have to follow these lines and cut these lines in so that the hair looks right. Also, being one of the older builds rather than the square socket, it's round, but then there's a slight indentation just here, and there's a lump on the legs which matches that, which means that there's a clean alignment. However, unlike the square sockets, I mean, this is the trade-off you make, if you like. The square sockets mean everything always fits the same way every time and has a very secure, solid fit. And on these rounded sockets, you can have a bit of wobble, even though they have got the notch point. But other than that, it's clean. There are no cast lines on this whatsoever. So again, I'm turning to find that one of the interesting things about the older ranges of miniatures is that a little bit smaller, the detail isn't so clean, so they're a little bit harder to paint in that respect, or in some respects. However, I don't know whether it's the casts that they've made for them, they've not rushed at all or what, but they don't have any cast lines on them anywhere, and I think it's because they were maybe concerned about loss of detail, because the detail is so fine on them. Whereas I've noticed that on the more recent miniatures, there has been the odd cast line, which is, I don't know, a bit bizarre from my point of view. But what the hey. So onwards. The legs then. There's a little bit of flash in between the legs. The injection points are all across the bottom here, as well as most of the release points. So it's very clean. Unlike the upper torso though, there is a cast line all the way along the one edge. But you know, that's not that much of a problem. I think with this one, also there's a cast line running down here. But other than that, it's just perfectly formed, what can you say? And I think with this one, when I cut it away, I am going to cut a pin, because I've been finding that when I've just got like a tiny narrow point and not 2 points to stick down onto the acrylic bases, the single point it comes away. I've been having a nightmare with what's it called? My Hellcat drop troop for the Nomads. She insists on not sticking to a base to the point where I'm having to drill her tiny little foot, or I'm having to resolve that anyway. But very clean, not much in the way of cleanup again, which is awesome. This is the injection hand. I say the injection hand, it's the hand comlog, and then it's a syringe with I don't know, some kind of medicinal module that stabs in the back. This here is actually the injection point. There's a little bit of a release point there which needs cutting away. There is a slight cast line that runs down along the top. It's very difficult to. You can see there's a cast line running down the top edge here, but it's pretty much okay along The bottom, just the bottom edge of the injection here. Of the injection, the injector, the syringe. Not quite sure. Medical multi-tool. The only other thing is where the top of the arm attaches. Just here, it's a bit messy and mucky. So that'll require a little bit of cleanup pre-attachment. I've tried sliding on the arm and it doesn't quite fit perfectly. It's not as clean a fit as any of the other models that I've assembled from Corvus Belli. So Daktaris has a kitty tail. She is a kitty Daktaris. Doctor Kitty. Injection point, release point, slight cast on the mould. Nothing more than that really. Easy peasy. Run a knife around the edge. Only thing to be careful of is this little divot here, on sticky outy lumpy bit here. This is actually the point where the tail attaches onto the body, so don't cut that away. Be very careful not to do that. The only other thing is that tail, once it's assembled, it is going to be delicate. I think that's just something that has to be accepted though. Finally then we have a medical bag, complete with strap and tiny little kitty that sits on the side. This is injection point, but also if you're going to put it in a base where like a normal slot base, it's something that you could use as a point for sticking through the slot base. Other than that, it's just release point, and a slight cast line running around the edge, but not a lot. Once again, it's pretty clean casting. Just to give it a flip so you can see the other side. But that's pretty easy days, and I'll just clean all this up, remove all of its pieces before assembling. And then I'm not even sure whether I'll bother sticking it on the base with her when I'm actually painting or not. It'll probably get stuck on the slot base actually, just so that I've got something to hold whilst painting it, because otherwise you end up making a lot of mess and not ending up painting it as well as you could. So I'll just get her assembled and I'll show you what she's like when she's ready for painting. Here we have it then, fully prepared, ready to paint. Daktaris, the doctor of choice for the Nomad forces. The assembly was pretty easy, except for the left arm, which was a bit of a pig. Also the left arm was a bit of a pig to clean up. I cut some stuff away and I couldn't really tell whether it was meant to be decorative or whether it was meant to be or whether it was just mass. It looked like it could have been a decorative bottom edge to the sleeve of the arm, but then it's not repeated on the other side, so it's very unclear. But you probably could have left it on and painted it in such a way that it looked okay, but I scraped it and removed it. Hardest part of the cleanup job was actually cleaning up the tail, just because it's got a fair bit of flex to it, and when you're scraping it with a knife trying to remove the cast line, it makes it really hard. Sorry about the fluctuating light. I'm now in the full force of the sunlight. I just need to get this done now, so apologies for that. I hope this has been of some use, interest to you, and that you help you decide whether the Daktaris is worth adding to your collection. And even if not, I hope it's of some use in terms of assembly process. Also, she did have a bath before I assembled her, so she's all clean and ready for base under painting, priming. Priming's the word I'm looking for. So thank you for watching. Have a good one and take care. Bye bye.